It started with the whispers. Subtle at first, just little things. The way my boss, Mark, would disappear for hours at a time, claiming urgent meetings. The hushed phone calls, the furtive glances, the way he'd practically trip over himself to be in the same room as Sarah, the new marketing director. I mean, I'm no fool. I knew something was up. But I was too busy working. Too busy grinding to build the product. I was the head of R&D, I lived and breathed that company. I was in charge of our most valuable intellectual property, the software that would make us rich. I trusted Mark implicitly. We'd worked together for almost a decade, building this company from the ground up. We were supposed to be partners, friends even. The fluorescent lights of the office hummed a monotonous tune, a soundtrack to the daily grind I'd come to know so well. The rhythmic clicking of keyboards, the murmur of conversations, the constant whir of the server room, it was a symphony of progress, a testament to the collective effort of our team. My team. The people I poured my heart and soul into, the people I considered family. And at the center of it all was the software. The sleek, elegant code I'd spent years crafting, the algorithms that were the very lifeblood of our company. I was its architect, its protector, its champion. I remember the early days, the late nights fueled by coffee and the unwavering belief in our vision. Mark and I, huddled over prototypes, debating features, celebrating small victories. We shared dreams, aspirations, a bond forged in the crucible of entrepreneurship. We built something from nothing, something we were both incredibly proud of. Now, staring at this subtle change, the way he disappeared, made me wonder if he was building something without me, too. The thought left a bitter taste in my mouth, a creeping sense of unease that I couldn't quite shake. Sarah was, to put it mildly, attractive. Polished, with a sharp wit and a confident demeanor. She always appeared well put together, perfectly coiffed hair, and a wardrobe that screamed success. She was the antithesis of me, and that always bothered me. She was all about the surface, the flash, the marketing. While I was buried in code and data, she was out schmoozing, making connections. And she was good at it. Too good, perhaps. I'd always considered myself a reasonably perceptive guy. I'd prided myself on my ability to read people, to anticipate problems, to see the bigger picture. So, how had I missed this? How had I been so blind to the rot growing beneath the surface? I felt a flush of heat rise to my cheeks. Maybe I was too focused on the code, too lost in the complexities of the software, to notice the subtle machinations taking place around me. Or maybe I was just naive, clinging to the image of Mark as the loyal partner, the steadfast friend. The thought of him and Sarah, it felt like a betrayal of our trust, of our shared history. I remember one specific incident that made my stomach churn. A company gala. We were celebrating a major milestone, and I was, as always, lost in conversation about the new architecture. The buzz of the crowd, the clinking of glasses, the generic elevator music, it was all a blur to me. I was explaining the intricacies of our new compression algorithm to a group of investors when I saw them. Mark and Sarah. They were glued to each other, laughing, whispering. He had his hand on the small of her back, a gesture that was both intimate and possessive. The way he looked at her, it was a look of pure, unadulterated infatuation. It wasn't just unprofessional, it was wrong. The image burned into my memory, a painful reminder of what was happening in front of me, like a sharp stab. I watched them for a moment, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. I caught the eye of a few of the other employees, who were also watching. Their expressions mirrored my own, a mixture of surprise, discomfort, and a growing sense of unease. The air around them seemed charged, as if they were creating their own separate universe. I felt shame for him, for myself, for the company. It felt like a punch to the gut. I tried to shrug it off, to tell myself it was nothing, that I was being overly sensitive. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it took root quickly, spreading like a weed throughout my mind. Then came the subtle shifts. My access to certain files was revoked. My opinions were suddenly irrelevant. My reports were too technical for Sarah, apparently. I was being iced out. They had stopped asking for my input on anything important. The requests to attend their meetings were gone. It felt like I was watching my own funeral. I was a ghost in the machine. I tried to brush it off, attributing the changes to the natural ebb and flow of business, to the inevitable shifts in power dynamics. But deep down, I knew better. The once open communication channels had become constricted. My input was no low. Inger sought, my expertise disregarded. I was gradually being pushed to the periphery, treated like an outdated model, a relic of a bygone era. It was as if my contributions, my very presence, were becoming an inconvenience. And the worst part? I suspected, deep down, that it was all connected to Sarah. That she was slowly, systematically, pushing me out. She never said anything directly, of course. She was too clever for that. She was the smiling assassin, and I was her unwitting target. I just couldn't put my finger on the why of it all. Then, I found the email. It was pure, dumb luck, honestly. I was looking through a shared drive for a document, and accidentally stumbled upon a folder labeled Project Phoenix. My curiosity piqued, I clicked. It was password protected, which immediately piqued my interest. It felt like the beginning of a John Grisham novel. After a few hours of hacking, my fingers flying across the keyboard, I cracked the code. I felt like a spy, breaking into a clandestine meeting. Inside were files, hundreds of them, detailing our proprietary software, our upcoming product launches, everything. They were planning to steal it all. To launch a competing product, using our intellectual property. The files were comprehensive, with detailed blueprints of all our key systems. It was our hard work. Our labor. Our dream. And it was all there, laid bare for them to exploit. And the kicker? The email trail led directly to Mark and Sarah. They were building this entire thing, secretly, right under my nose. I'd suspected something was wrong, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. The betrayal was a cold, hard slap in the face. I scrolled through the documents, each line of code, each carefully crafted design, a fresh wound to my pride. The sheer audacity of it, the utter disregard for everything we'd built together, left me reeling. It was as if they'd taken a sledgehammer to our shared history, shattering the foundation of our partnership. I knew then that this wasn't just about business. It was personal. It was a betrayal of trust, a desecration of a friendship that had spanned years. It was like watching a family member commit the worst possible crime. The anger hit me like a tidal wave. A wave of rage. It was a visceral, gut-wrenching fury that consumed me, making my veins pump with an icy, white heat. It wasn't just the professional betrayal, but the personal. The hours I poured into that company, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices I made. Gone. Destroyed. Wiped out. He betrayed not just the company, but me, our history, our friendship. And Sarah, well, she was just a parasite, attaching herself to the highest bidder, sucking the life out of everything she touched. I felt so violated, so used. It wasn't just the business that had been damaged, but my integrity, the years I'd poured into it. My life. I felt so violated, so used. It was a profound violation of my trust, a theft of my time, my energy, my passion. I felt a sense of being hollowed out, as if someone had stolen a part of me. I felt a burning need for something to do. But then, something shifted. The despair turned into a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't going to just roll over. I wouldn't let them get away with it. They wanted to play dirty. Fine. Two can play that game. I wouldn't let their actions define me, I wouldn't let them win. I paced my apartment, the silence of the night broken only by the pounding of my own heart. I needed a plan, and fast. I knew I couldn't just expose them to the authorities. The legal battles would drag on for years, and likely the company would still be damaged beyond repair. I needed something more. Something that would leave them exposed and humiliated, but also give the company a fighting chance. I needed something with a bit of flair. I'd been thinking of an opportunity. The board meeting was coming up, the quarterly report. It was their moment, when all the decisions are made. And I had access to a full copy of the software. I could do something, but what? The weight of it all settled on me, a heavy cloak of responsibility. I was the guardian of our creation, the last line of defense against their treachery. I had a decision to make. I had a choice to make. My plan started to form. I spent the next few weeks meticulously gathering evidence. Not just the stolen files, but also the emails, the secret meetings, the paper trail of their treachery. I had to be absolutely certain everything was in place. I recorded every conversation, every whispered phone call, every time they were together. Every bit of data from Project Phoenix that would sink them. I started looking up every detail. Her background, his divorce, everything. It was exhausting, but I was fueled by a cold, burning rage. I was like a detective, but instead of solving a crime, I was preparing to unleash one. My days became a blur of covert operations, of clandestine gatherings of information. I used the ski LLS that I had developed over the years to extract and store every piece of information. I became a master of digital espionage, a ghost in the machine, meticulously collecting the evidence of their betrayal. The thrill of the hunt, the meticulous planning, the quiet satisfaction of outmaneuvering them, fueled my every waking hour. I found a certain satisfaction in the planning, in the slow, deliberate build-up of my revenge. It was a way to channel my rage, to convert my pain into a weapon. I was like a chess player, calculating every move, anticipating every countermove, ensuring that my victory would be swift and decisive. Finally, the day arrived. The board meeting. I watched Mark and Sarah waltz in, hand, a picture of false confidence. Sarah with her overly bright dress and smile, Mark with his usual slicked-back hair, looking as smug as ever. I knew exactly what they were planning. They were going to announce their competing product, using our technology. They had the launch all planned out, the investors lined up, the champagne on ice. I could practically taste their victory. The air in the boardroom was thick with anticipation. The mahogany table gleamed under the bright lights, reflecting the expectant faces of the board members. The room hummed with the quiet energy of impending decisions. I could practically feel the tension in the air as I watched Mark and Sarah take their seats at the head table. The sight of them, radiating an aura of false confidence, fueled my resolve. They were so confident. So certain of their victory. They had underestimated me. They had underestimated the power of loyalty, the importance of trust. As they sat down at the head table, I walked to the front of the room, my hands shaking slightly. It was the kind of meeting that made everyone excited and proud to be a part of the team. They saw me, their faces changing from smug to slightly confused. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice calm, maybe too calm, even to my own ears. The room went silent, all eyes on me. "I have something I'd like to share with you all." I could see the color drain from Mark's face. Sarah's smile faltered. I held up a thumb drive. "This," I said, holding up the thumb drive, "contains all the evidence. All the files. The emails. Everything." I watched their faces shift through the spectrum of shock, horror, and then, pure, unadulterated panic. I dropped the drive, the plastic bouncing slightly on the mahogany table as I did so. I looked Mark directly in the eye, and gave him a wry smile. Then I turned to the board and said, as the head of R&D, "I know I'm the only one who can show them what they really did." I took the laptop and plugged the thumb drive in. "This is what Mark and Sarah have been up to," I announced, my voice steady now, as I clicked through the evidence. I projected the stolen files onto the big screen, showing the board members everything. They were speechless. Their reactions were priceless. The CEO, a man who'd always trusted Mark implicitly, was visibly shaking. Some of the board members were whispering among themselves, their faces contorted with fury. I showed them everything. Every detail of their elaborate plot. The evidence that they were planning to destroy the company. I showed them Sarah's background, a litany of corporate crime, shady practices, and fraudulent investment deals. Each click of the mouse was a blow against their carefully constructed facade, each file a testament to their deceit. The faces of the board members were a study in outrage, disbelief, and a growing sense of betrayal. The room filled with the hum of the projector, the low murmur of voices, the sharp intakes of breath. The air crackled with tension. I then played the audio recordings of their secret meetings, the hushed conversations, the plans for their competing product, the details about the money Mark would get. The room was tense, everyone focused on the evidence. Then, I clicked the video of them together at the gala. The intimate looks, the close proximity. The board members were speechless. They all knew Mark, his dedication and intelligence. But to see him like this. To see him betray everyone, it was like watching a house of cards collapse. I watched as the carefully constructed world they had built together crumbled before their eyes. The video clip of them at the gala, their faces a portrait of shared complicity. Finally, I turned to Mark and Sarah, and I spoke the final sentence, "I think you both know what comes next." The silence was deafening. The faces of the board members were a study in a mixture of shock and outrage. Then came the best part. I left the room. I was finished. The board handled the rest. I didn't need to be there to watch them get fired, their reputations ruined. The company's lawyers took over, and the legal proceedings began. I didn't want to see it. I didn't need to see it. I'd gotten my revenge. And it was glorious. As I walk out of the boardroom, a wave of relief washed over me. The weight on my shoulders lifted, and I finally felt the weight of the world off me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. My work was done. The CEO called me the next day, to thank me. He offered me a promotion, a huge bonus, and a promise of more autonomy. I didn't take it. I wanted to rebuild. To make things right. They were, after all, my closest co-workers for a decade. I knew I needed a clean break, a fresh start. The betrayal had left a deep scar, and I needed to find a way to heal, to move forward. It took a long time to recover. I had some tough days, weeks even, when all I felt was the weight of betrayal. But I knew that this wasn't the end of my story. I wasn't defeated. I was stronger. I had been forged in the fires of betrayal, and I emerged a better person, a more experienced one. The product was saved, the company limped, but continued. I spent a few months trying to help rebuild the trust with the company. The legal battles dragged on, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I had my closure. In the aftermath, there was a sense of quiet satisfaction, a feeling of having restored a balance, of having righted a wrong. The product was saved, the company, though scarred, survived, and I had a role in that. I helped rebuild the trust, the sense of collaboration, and shared purpose that had been shattered. Looking back, there's a dark humor to it all. The mistress, the secret files, the board meeting. The whole thing played out like a bad movie, but it was my reality. Mark and Sarah disappeared from the industry. Their careers were over. Sarah, of course, moved on quickly. I heard she got a job at a different company. Mark, on the other hand, was destroyed. His reputation, his career, his life. I learned to appreciate the value of trust, the importance of honesty, and the resilience of the human spirit. They both got what they deserved. And as for me, well, I found peace. I moved on. I eventually left the company. I am now working in the field, a software engineer, building things that matter. I found satisfaction in my work, a sense of purpose in my contribution, and a renewed appreciation for the people I worked with. This whole experience taught me a valuable lesson. Don't underestimate the power of hard work, dedication, and loyalty. And don't ever trust someone who uses you for their own gain. They weren't friends. They were enemies, and they took something that meant the world to me. But, in the end, I emerged victorious. I discovered that in the face of adversity, there is always an opportunity for growth, for healing, for finding your strength. So, yeah, that's my story. A story of betrayal, revenge, and, ultimately, redemption. It's a story that shaped me, that defined me. And though the scars remain, they serve as a reminder of the battles I have won, the lessons I have learned, and the person I have become.